Hello and welcome to Grad Dialogue. Today my guest is Marshall Carrier. We have been hearing about new I-69, that is a highway, interstate highway coming from Indianapolis all the way down to the south, crossing Henderson and Hopkinsville and everything else. However, there's always been talk about a new bridge on the Ohio River because the 41 bridge may not be sufficient to handle the new I-69. So we have invited Marshall Carrier from the State Highway Cabinet in Frankfort to talk about the project. Marshall, welcome on the Grad Dialogue.
Thank you.
For a little bit intro about the Marshall, Marshall Carrier works in the State Highway Engineers Office for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. He serves as a project manager for the I-69 Ohio River Crossing. And some of you guys call that ORX,
yes,
Ohio River Crossing. That's very good way to, kind of cute way to show that. Marshall is a leading KYTC's effort on the I-69 ORX study and working closely with the Indiana Department of Transportation, and both states are committed to the completion of I-69 connection and have initiated a study up the corridor to identify the route, the bridge location, as well as the funding for the new I-69 Ohio River Crossing. I know that it wasn't too long, Marshall, that when our Governor Matt Bevin and
yes,
also met with then Governor Mike Pence and signed the document, in near Henderson side of it, as far as working mutually to really make this I-69 a reality.
Absolutely.
And welcome on the Grad Dialogue. And as you know by now, he spoke to my grad board of directors this afternoon.
Yes, sir.
That this is a really key things that we're looking for towards some future economic development and also the growth in our region. So again, welcome, and tell us what is your involvement and where are we in this whole project?
Well, as like you mentioned, I'm the project manager, represent KYTC. This is a bi-state effort between KYTC and Indiana Department of Transportation. So there is a project manager on the Indiana side of things. Her name is Janelle Lemon. She's the project manager for INDOT. We have a lot of people involved in this project. Gary Valentine, who's a counterpart of mine here with KYTC, he has some experience delivering the Louisville Bridges project. And we have several players as far as the communications effort of things. And we have a broad-based team that's working diligently to deliver this project. One of the more important aspects is that we'd like the public to understand is that, delivering this particular project to construction hopefully in the future, is just one intricate part of delivering on the promise of economic development. That's just essentially our job, was what we envisioned it being, of delivering the project and delivering that infrastructure. It's up to the local leaders and the local people of the region to deliver on the promise of economic viability and development in the future. So,
Marshall, when you've been to the Natcher Bridge in Davis County. I remember the time that when Grad was involved in trying to work with the cabinet, finding a feasibility study, a feasibility location, for that bridge, and it was a big project. And I believe, even to me, looking at the whole thing, this is one bigger than that because you're now connecting to a I-69. That's also interstate, standards and all those kind of things. So, and recently Kentucky also went through the new bridge in Louisville too. So tell us about how what is the extent? I know it's too early. What level of funding we talking about, and what level of highways could we be talking about?
You're probably in the ballpark of a $1 billion project.
I see.
So you're essentially classifying that as what we would in the business call a mega project, and that's a mega project not only for us but for INDOT. When you talk about that level of financial undertaking, you're talking about significant oversight from many review agencies, including FHWA, for example. Now that rolls into the discussion of the NEPA process, the National Environmental Protection Association or Act, and really what that comes down to is significantly more stringent guidelines, identifying impacts to the region, to the local people in the neighborhoods, to the local businesses. How will the viability of this particular project build into the discussion of the overall region viability and that connectivity? There's been significant investments on both sides of the river, not only from Kentucky's standpoint, but from Indiana's standpoint as well. So this is kind of that remaining piece of the puzzle to bring those two initiatives together.
So when we see the I-69 sign and or 169 and Evansville side of it, and see some of the I-69 corridor sign on the Panhandle Parkway side of it too,
Yes, sir.
and then we talk about the crossing here. So this is not something that we're gonna implode the existing 41 bridges. We're gonna put a brand new bridge and everything else. So you have to also deal with what to do about the existing bridges.
Yeah, there's no doubt that having two mega structures crossing the Ohio today along the 41 corridor is a big player in this whole discussion. When you talk about the financial feasibility in delivering this particular project, you're looking at not only the finances, but the long-term operations and maintenance issues that are tied to additional costs in the future, not only for us, but for Indiana. When you tie all that information together into the overall discussion, whether you're along the existing 41 corridor or if you're off that corridor as we'll call a bypass structure, those two existing bridges are always still going to be in that conversation. How are you going to address long-term operations and maintenance costs for those two existing aging structures? It needs to be noted that, you know, one of those two structures is 50 years old roughly. Wow. The other is 80. So they're reaching the latter stages of their life expectancy. So not only are you talking about operations and maintenance, quote unquote, but you're also talking about replacement in the near future. So all that has to build into the financial discussion.
And it's funny because we always wait to see if Keith Todd gonna come on the TV or something saying, hey, there's a construction going on or a paint job going on or an accident going on.
Sure.
Because 41 bridge is kind of heartbeat, for this region as well.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
that part. So really, we're talking about it when this project gets, becomes a reality, or the closing to the reality about the Ohio River crossing. You guys are also going to decide what to do and how to keep that 41 to twin bridges in some show an operational level and everything else.
Sure,
Okay.
and a lot of that builds into, let's say for example, we are on a corridor that bypasses to the east of Henderson, and we build a new bridge.
Right.
Well, there's also approach structures associated with that, which adds to the cost. But there's also those existing bridges and their existing approach structures to get across the floodplain. So when you talk about having possibly a bypass, it always leads back to the question: what are you going to do with the old 41 bridges? Are you going to keep them both? Are you going to keep one? Are you going to use it in some form or fashion as a pedestrian or a bike facility? Are you? And all that builds into the financial discussion, but that also builds into how are you going to deliver the project and whether tolling is involved. And when you get to the level of discussing, tolling, the question becomes: are you going to toll only the bypass bridge? Are you going to still have some type of toll along the 41 corridor, along the existing bridges? A lot of that information we don't have in hand just yet, but we're in the early stages of the NEPA process. So in the next year or so, we'll be able to evaluate a little more closely if tolling is going to be a major player in this discussion, if so, to what degree.
Well, that's something that's kind of given in a sense with the budget issue that we face in Washington and Frankfurt. There could be some sort of tolling at the bridges.
Yeah, I think most people understand that tolling is going to be into the discussion, and to what degree is really the crux of that discussion. We have some traffic data that's starting to evolve and should be to its full potential in the next couple months. That will kind of determine how we approach that discussion. Are you going to have bypass traffic? What percentage of that traffic is heavy truck traffic?
Right.
What percentage is regional versus local traffic?
Right.
And a lot of that will build into the financial plan discussion that will have to be brought along parallel to that traffic discussion.
At the board meeting, you talked about there are 4 or 5 different alternatives that you guys looking into that as initial, fact finding and everything else, from no action at all to all different locations. Can you kind of mention those things and where are you on those at the present time?
Well, in this process, it's not uncommon to establish what's called a no-build alternative, and that's essentially your benchmark. It's what you're always comparing everything to. And then from a cost standpoint, you're looking at other alternatives that satisfy what's called the purpose and need of the project. If it's cross-river mobility, if it's improving the safety of the corridor, and so on and so forth. So you're looking at corridors that can address that purpose and need of the overall project while satisfying all initiatives of the project. We initially had 5 early on when we first approached the public. Wasn't too soon after that through what's called a screening process that we screened those down to 3 alternatives. And now we're down to what's called West Corridor 1 and 2, which is along the 41 corridor, and a Central Corridor 1. which is essentially a bypass on the eastern side of Henderson. Now, the one thing that the West 1 and 2 does directly address are the existing 41 bridges that we talked about.
I see.
As opposed to if you're talking about the Central Corridor 1, which is on the eastern side of the region, then there's still those existing twin bridges that have to be dealt with.
So really, I'm trying to visualize for the audience to see what we're talking about. You're talking about the West 1 and 2 are more or less where the existing 41
Yes,
and
yes,
the bridges are, the two twin bridges. Then I guess if you're looking towards Evansville, on the right side will be the Central Corridor.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then the last one talking about is the one that would tie in with where I-69 coming straight from Evansville would cross the river or something?
Yeah, that was one of the 5 that
see.
was taken out of that discussion due to mainly substantial cost and lengthening the corridor substantially. Now you're getting back to the whole operations and maintenance cost issue of the future for both cabinets. And then also there's significant right-of-way impacts where that easternmost corridor tied into the existing 69 on the Evansville side. That's a pretty densely populated area there. So that one, it didn't take long for that one to fall out of the conversation. Plus there was an additional Green River crossing, which you're adding yet another significant structure to the mix. So it was more the high dollar corridor itself, so it didn't take long for that one to
But it's not just the Ohio River Bridge crossing, but you're going to take it down all the way
and it'll
to
cross
join
the Green.
69.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was a pretty significant burden on both administrations if we were to choose that particular route. So with the fiscal tone of the day on both sides of the river, it doesn't take long to figure out that one's probably not going to last very long.
Yeah. I mean, you think this is a big mega project,
Sure.
You look so cool about this whole thing.
Hopefully it looks good.
You talk about it, $1 billion+ not just the bridge, but add additional approaches all the way to the 69. And to do about 41 and all those kind of things. Yeah,
and that's what a lot of people don't necessarily realize. You're not just talking about the bridge itself or the existing 41 bridges. You're talking about, half a mile one side of the bridge and half a mile the other side of the bridge. Approach structures is what we call them. They're bridges as well. So those, operations and maintenance concerns and issues and annual costs associated with those as well. If you're talking about the existing 41 bridges, for example, in the past 10 years we've spent over $50 million, both states have, in just maintaining the bridges. So when you're talking about delivering $1 billion project overall, you have to weigh those factors into that overall discussion.
But the road will connect to the Napa Parkway.
Yes, sir.
In the 69. So either go straight from the bridge or coming the other side coming down.
It'll either follow, well, we anticipate. But it'll either follow the 41 corridor across, and doing something with the 41 bridges, or it'll break off south and go across the Ohio and tie back in on the 69 corridor on the north side.
So really, as I mentioned earlier, this is a kind of mega project. Especially, it's not just the the decision by the KY DOT or and then the local folks. You also need to deal with the Indiana side and their politics too. So So how do you get the kind of gauge the input of the elected officials and citizens on both sides of the river?
Well, you can only do so much to try to educate the public and educate the local leaders. But we're blessed to have good leaders and good people on both sides of the river in this particular project. There's a lot of support on both sides of the water. It's just a matter of how we get there.
I see.
And we're doing things like this right here, and meeting with we're glad to meet with the grad board earlier today. It's initiatives like that and that communications effort, whether we're using Facebook, Twitter, the website, and you name it. A lot of that social media helps move that effort forward. And it's all about educating the public and educating the leaders in the area to carry the message forward, to help everybody better understand.
Marshall, this is probably one of the lifetime project for grad, as far as the changing the face of the whole region and everything else potentially.
Yeah.
I know it's a long way to go, and a lot of work needs to be done, by both sides, and especially for you and your team. Can you kind of give the audience maybe a telephone number or a link if they want to get more information, beyond just getting on the grad's website or things like that?
Yeah, well, we've got the website, www.i69 ohiocrossing.com.
Okay.
And then we also have the information on the website itself
see.
that has the local office information. We have an office in Henderson and an office in Evansville as well. So it's good to maintain those local offices for people you know, the passers-by, so to speak, and the people that live in the area and own property and own business, to be able to walk in and talk to a person face to face, and they can set up meetings with the project team leaders if they so see fit, and we're welcome to have any kind of input that they may have, and our effort is to always keep the public aware of where we are at any given time, and we welcome their input.
That's great. I think, wish you best of luck. And I know that, you did stress that this is going to be not done in a vacuum. All the people are going to have a constant ways of, providing input and then assessment as every step that you go through and everything else.
Yeah, it's virtually impossible to deliver a project of this magnitude in a vacuum, so to speak. You put it well. And the NEPA process delegates that. There's certain stringent guidelines that we are welcome to adhere to that ensures that the local input and the local initiative is brought to the forefront, and it addresses those concerns.
Right. Marshall, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll revisit again, but this is a long process for us anyway, and very important for us.
It'll be a few years.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Again, thanks for watching Grad Dialogue. We've been talking to Marshall Carrier. He's from the DOT in Kentucky, also the project manager for the Ohio River Crossing Project, which would end up building a new bridge on the Ohio River in Henderson to connect I-69 on both states. Great project, big event for us, for the future. If you need more information, go on the GRAD website, or even go on the website for the I-69 OhioRiverCrossing.com. Again, thank you, and have a great day. Welcome, and to the GRAD Dialogue. I'm so excited to have my guest today. My guest is, Troy Quinn, and he is a newcomer to Owensboro, but he's also the newest director, or the music director, or the symphony director that we have for the Owensboro Symphony. So we are so excited that after a national search, and to some extent international search, we have landed the best, young conductor for our symphony. Troy, has been known as one of the most energetic and riveting, of his a generation to be conductor. And we are so glad that he chose Owensboro to be the home. He's also in his third season as a music director for the Juneau Symphony, where he conducts both the classical and pop concert series. He's also native of Connecticut, and pursued his Bachelor of Arts degree from the Providence College, where he was a recipient of the Leo S. Cannon Award for Superior Achievement in the music field. And he went on to his master's degree with honors from Manhattan School of Music, studying conducting with David Gilbert, very well known, and also with the voice with highly acclaimed Metropolitan Opera singer Mark Oswald. Troy, all those things will be a household, knowledge, within a short time, as you spend some time in Owensboro. So again, welcome, and
Thank
also,
you,
not only for me, and not only as a, grad, but also, having been a chairman of the symphony board, and I'm so honored that you have been selected. And also
well,
been,
I'm honored, Jiten.
Yeah,
Thank you for
cool.
having me. You should be my publicist. What an introduction.
Wow, that's great. I think I would love to do that. Because
I'm happy to be here.
so let's kind of talk about. I know we had a brief intro, but tell us about yourself and kind of how you landed up in Owensboro and why you chose Owensboro to be, the
Right.
new.
Well, I'm so thrilled to be here. It's sort of a random experience. I saw the job posting, which was now 2 years ago. It's a long process, as many of your viewers will know. And I started doing some research on the city of Owensboro and was just very surprised, pleasantly, at the cultural foundation and the strength of community and really the love of music here. So the orchestra wasn't known to me before, and I applied, and when I came here in November, fell in love with it. I came here right before Thanksgiving, and everything was decorated for Christmas, and it was a magical time, and we had wonderful rapport with the orchestra. And so after that, I really wanted to come here, and I'm glad it worked out.
And not only that, we go through the whole process of interviewing the candidates and everything. Yeah, I think we had over 120 20 plus candidates in the beginning, then narrowed down to 4. That
Right.
you were one of the candidate. But I think the audience may not know that as one of the candidates, you also performed one of the symphony this last
Correct,
season.
yes.
And we asked the audience and the community, the board, everybody to vote on between the 4 candidates, who do you think is the ideal person to lead the Owensboro Symphony, and all came out to be Troy Quinn.
It's a little bit like American Idol. Everybody
Absolutely,
gets a say.
yeah.
And the last person standing is here. So, well, most people don't realize it's such a long process.
Yes,
As
yes.
you were mentioning, it's
Yeah.
basically a 2-year interview process. I
Right,
feel like
yeah.
I'm applying to be a CIA agent. It's that strenuous and a long process. But I was very happy with the way our concert turned out, and of course with the final result. And I'm thrilled to be here. And
Yeah.
Saturday will be my first concert with the orchestra.
Yeah, I guess the Saturday is our concert on the lawn.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the season. Since you're now the official conductor, for Owensboro Symphony, or the music director, tell us about what we should be looking forward to for the 52nd symphony season.
We have a wonderful season planned, Jiten. I mean, I am so excited about it. We have something for everybody, and it's going to be thrilling. Even if you've never seen a live orchestra concert before, there will be something that appeals to everybody in Owensboro. So I expect the whole town to come to at least one concert. We've got everything from Star Wars to Star Trek to Mozart to Holst. I mean, it's just a hodgepodge of some of the greatest music ever, bar none.
Right, right.
And our opening concert is very exciting. Rachel Barton Pine, acclaimed violinist from Chicago, who's played with Chicago Symphony and many, many world-famous orchestras, will be coming to our own Owensboro. And she's playing the Wieniawski Violin Concerto No. 2. We'll be doing one of the great pieces of Brahms' Symphony No. 3 on that concert as well. And that just opens up the season in October. But throughout the season, we have a John Williams concert happening in March as well, a tribute to all of his music.
Wow.
And so we're playing everything from Star Wars to Jaws to Indiana Jones and some of his lesser-known works like The Patriot and Far and Away. So wonderful pieces that everybody knows, as well as our last concert happening in April, Cosmic Convergence. This is a concert we're sort of a hybrid concert. We're including some music from Star Wars and Star Trek, but also Holst the Planets, Jupiter, which everybody probably knows. As well as Mozart's monumental Symphony No. 41. So it's both classic and popular. We've got something for everybody. I'm so thrilled about it. The orchestra's excited to play this music. It's going to be a fantastic season. Big orchestras for most of these concerts. So it's going to be very, very exciting, I think.
Sounds very exciting, the whole lineup for the whole season and everything else. I believe the season begins in October.
It does,
Okay,
right.
okay.
Opening night, October, and then goes through April. We've got 5 subscription concerts. And actually, this is a perfect place to put a plug in because we're doing a special for first-time season ticket holders. You can get your season tickets for less than $100.
Wow.
Which is less than
Wow.
$20 a concert.
yeah.
It's a bargain. It really is, to hear some of this great classical music, film music. For less than that, you can't even go to the movies for that, really.
So really, people watching the show, man, this is really good. I got a new conductor, all the
Absolute-
excitement and everything else. So they should be calling the symphony office. I believe it's 684-0661.
That's right.
If
Or
not, you can go on the
go to the website at
Absolutely,
theoso.com and buy tickets there. And our staff is waiting by the phones.
Right.
So call.
Since you mentioned, Troy, yes, we do have one of the best symphony that I can consider, that of our size in the nation, and we just finished now 51 years. That's
Right.
For Owensboro, the size of the community, that is a great challenge, to have symphony that long.
And it's really fortunate
Right,
for Owensboro.
yeah,
I conduct all over the country, and I'm also the music director of the Juneau Symphony.
Right.
This doesn't happen in a town this size, with such a thriving orchestra at such a high level. That was one of the draws, for me about taking the job, was the high level that the orchestra was at in a town this size. We're really fortunate. I go across the country conducting other places, and That doesn't happen very often. So this is a very special place.
Yeah. And again, people, you went through the whole lineup and talked about some of the music pieces and also, some of the movie themes and all those things. So if people are still thinking about, should I really go and buy the tickets? I think they have a great chance this coming weekend.
Yes, they do, on Saturday.
And you have planned all the movie
We
things?
have the greatest film music in history going on Saturday.
Okay.
And a really exciting thing, Jiten, John Williams himself has given us permission to do a piece that has never been performed outside of Hollywood and him conducting it. It's not published yet, it will be, but we've got special permission to do it. It's a medley, 5-minute medley of all the great film music, including some of his stuff. From Gone with the Wind to Rocky, E.T., Jaws, and he's done this in 5 minutes. It's never been performed. It's going to blow everybody away. The orchestra is very excited about it. So this is a great introduction to not only me, but to the symphony if you've never seen a concert before, on Saturday at 7 p.m.
So I believe that, that not only all those seasons you're talking about, the music and everything else, but can you talk about, one of the things we take pride is also connecting the music and children.
Right.
So what do I know this is maybe too early because it's the first weekend for you, being in Owensboro, but what are your thoughts about how the music could affect the children and also get prepared, for different talents?
Well, music education is very dear to my heart, Jiten, and of course the other wonderful thing about the symphony is we have the academy. So we're teaching classes from piano to kinder music there.
I see.
That's a real important aspect of what we do here in Owensboro. And I spend a lot of my time with youth orchestras and with children, speaking in the schools, not only doing that, but also exposing them to music, because that's so important. I'm so passionate about it because I was lucky to have that education as a kid, and my parents had that instilled in me from a young age. I grew up listening to everything from film music to Brahms to Barbra Streisand. So, I sort of have this hodgepodge of music education, and I think it's very important because nowadays not everybody is exposed to classical music. And so my thinking is if we can expose kids to it at a young age and pique their interest with maybe something else, not necessarily Mozart, because maybe they don't know what that is yet. If we can pique their interest with something, then they'll hear Mozart, fall in love with it like I did, and maybe they'll be sitting in this chair one day. That's the hope.
And I would imagine that you would also like to visit the school systems, and we have quite a few different programs as far as tying strings with the children and everything else that has a lot of activities.
Absolutely, and throughout the season I'll be here quite a bit. This is my second home. I'll be going into the schools, the high schools and the elementary schools actually, and visiting with folks and talking about our upcoming concerts, and so we will be utilizing the whole community and getting them involved, because a lot of these kids haven't been to a concert.
Right, and we are known to have that, not only Owensboro and Davis County, but our symphony has connection to the whole region. That will be something that we're looking forward to for you to provide that energy and
exactly. And the exciting thing too, Jiten, is a lot of even some of our orchestra comes from the county and outside. So we're drawing even from an hour, 2 hours away. So this is sort of a whole state effort, really, to make a symphony concert happen. So, it's exciting.
Yeah, and then all it takes is the people to come down there and witness, and enjoy the piece and everything else. So just for the couple of minutes or so, tell us about what else that you will be involved in beside conducting the music for Owensboro. You're also working on different other
outside
avenues.
of Owensboro. Yes. Well, I actually just came from doing a 2-week tour in Canada. A very different Spirit of the Dance, an offshoot of River Dance. So it was an Irish dancing show, and we played there for 2 weeks. But a lot of my work is in the studios in Los Angeles, singing and conducting on films and television, actually. And of course, I'm still the music director of the Juneau Symphony, so I'm a busy guy, and I'll be doing a lot of guest conducting. I go to Florida, I think in May, but so it's exciting, and this is a wonderful connection too to have, and this, I think we benefit from it because we're able to do, like I said, this John Williams piece I pulled a few strings to get that, but it's wonderful because I think the community here will love it. And that's the benefit of working with so many of these wonderful colleagues all over, that then maybe we can bring them here and expose the orchestra to this. We just did a big concert back in Los Angeles with many of John Williams' studio musicians. And so, you know, the hope is to maybe have them here as a soloist one day. And Rachel Barton-Pine's coming, who I know her work, and she's been wonderful. So making these connections and being as visible in the industry is a benefit, I think, for our symphony too. So I'm busy, which is good, keeps me out of trouble. But you know, Owensboro is really, of course, the focus this year, as it's my first year here.
But Troy, you know, the symphony board and the symphony community, and as well as the whole region, you know, so honored to have, you know, you to be our music director. You know, again, you know, the way you describe some of the experience and some of the ongoing work, you know, we are fortunate to have an internationally renowned young conductor, you know, come here and lead our symphony for this 52nd season.
You're very kind. You're very kind.
I'm serious about it. Yeah.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. I really am.
Well, thank you, and wish you best of luck for the season, as well as the upcoming concert this coming Saturday.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Again, we've been talking to Troy Quinn. He's our newest music conductor or music director for Owensboro Symphony. And if you heard him, you know, he is the international renowned conductor, and you should take advantage. You know, if you have not been to symphony or season ticket holder, please call the symphony office and get the whole season, the great special, for $100. You know, you can't beat that. If nothing else, at least you would enjoy the great evening and the great music that you would have and your family as well. So if any questions, you can always call me at the grad office, or even contact the OSO at 684-0661. And thank you very much.